A millionaire took his mute daughter to a café and was captivated when he saw a black woman communicating in sign language. Seattle, a quiet Monday morning. Dawn's light streamed through the towering windows of a luxury high-rise, casting a pale glow over the sofa where Daniel Wyatt sat frozen, weighed down by a grief that had gripped him for a year. On the thick rug before him, his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, curled up, clutching a worn-out teddy bear as if it were the last fragile thread tying her to the world. Her tangled brown hair hid half her vacant face. Lily's eyes stared blankly out the window. No words, no movement, no reaction. 1 year ago, a car accident had claimed Emily, Daniel's wife, Lily's mother, and from that day on, Lily had not spoken again. Daniel had tried everything: therapy, speech intervention, acupuncture, meditation, flights to Boston and San Francisco to see top specialists. Hundreds of thousands of dollars had bought only silence. A therapist had recently told him, "Maybe Lily doesn't need another technique. She needs a reason to reconnect." A reason? Where could he buy one? In what programming language could it be written? His phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Jason Cole's name, best friend and co-founder of North Star AI. "Meet me at Pine Café around noon. Update on the Tokyo deal." Daniel hesitated. Lately, he'd been avoiding meetings, hardly leaving the apartment. He didn't want to leave Lily alone, but he also knew he couldn't keep locking himself away forever. He looked at his daughter. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "how about we go out for a bit today?" No answer, but as he bent to put on his shoes, Lily slowly stood and held out her small hand to him. Such a tiny gesture, yet to Daniel it was everything. A sliver of hope, thin as the first ray of morning light. He smiled. "Let's go." Lily gave the faintest nod. The road to Pine Café felt both familiar and strange. Daniel glanced at the rearview mirror now and then. Lily sat quietly in the back seat, holding her teddy bear, but there was something just slightly less hollow in her gaze, as though a small part of her was cautiously finding its way back. Pine Café was tucked into North Seattle, where old red brick walls met artisan coffee shops. Years ago, Daniel and Jason had signed some of their first deals here. That afternoon, the espresso machine hummed, keyboards clacked, and soft conversations blended into a warm, urban rhythm. Daniel walked in holding Lily's hand, afraid that letting go might make her retreat into silence again. Jason was already by the window. He stood. "Hey, Lily, long time no see." She didn't respond, only pressed closer to her father. They sat. Jason talked about contracts, investors, Asian market timelines. Daniel nodded and took notes, but his mind stayed with Lily. Her eyes seemed to drift somewhere he couldn't reach. Then the unexpected happened. From the open kitchen, a young woman emerged, cream apron, hair in a neat bun, eyes bright yet calm. Her skin was a warm, deep brown that glowed under the lights. She carried a tray of fresh-baked pastries, smiling at familiar customers. When her gaze landed on Lily, her smile softened. She tilted her head, watching for a beat. Not curiosity, not pity, instinct. Her name was Sofia Delgado, the cafe's baker, born profoundly deaf. Sofia set the tray near their table, hesitated a moment, then crouched so her eyes were level with Lily's. Her hands began to move, slow, gentle, rhythmic, ASL flowing like a silent dance. Her eyes stayed connected to Lily's, not forcing, only opening a door. "Hello? How are you? What's your teddy's name?" Daniel froze. So did Jason, and then the impossible happened. Lily smiled. Small, not radiant, but real, her first true smile since the accident. Daniel's breath caught. Sofia kept signing, patient as if coaxing a lost soul home. Lily didn't speak, but her eyes lit up. Tentatively, she lifted her hands and copied a few clumsy signs. Jason whispered, "Who is she?" Daniel didn't answer, afraid even a movement might shatter the fragile moment. Finally, Sophia looked up, signed hello, and spoke slowly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. I just thought I might help." Daniel stepped closer. "I'm Daniel. This is my daughter, Lily. Thank you for whatever just happened." Sophia nodded with a gentle smile. "I'm Sophia. I've been deaf since birth." She said it as casually as if describing her eye color. Daniel asked, "But how did you understand her?" Sophia glanced at Lily. "She knows a few basic signs. I think she just signed ha ha and I like your smile. Not perfect, but I understood." For the first time in months, Daniel dared name the feeling rising in his chest. Hope. The afternoon drifted by like a small piece of magic. On the way home, Daniel poured Lily some orange juice and asked, "Want more?" She nodded, her first voluntary response in months. Dinner felt warmer that night. The next morning, Daniel returned to Pine Café just to thank Sophia. She came out from the kitchen, smiling. "I don't usually visit the same cafe 2 days in a row," Daniel said, "but yesterday, what you did for Lily, thank you." Sophia shook her head. "Lily's special. I just spoke in the way I know." Daniel hesitated, then asked, "Would you teach Lily sign language?" Sophia blinked. "I'm not a teacher." Daniel replied, "But you did what 5 therapists couldn't. You made her connect. Please try." Sophia was silent for a moment, then nodded. 1 hour after school every day and no pressure. Daniel smiled, a real one, for the first time in months. "No pressure, I promise." From that day, Pine Café became the father-daughter ritual. Lily sat at a small table near the kitchen. Sophia taught her first signs, greetings, feelings, animals. Simple lessons, but for Lily, each was a key unlocking long-barred doors. Daniel sat nearby, pretending to work but really just watching. Watching Sophia's hands speak. Watching the light return to his daughter's eyes. Somewhere inside, the thick ice was beginning to melt. After a few sessions, Lily could already sign, "Hello," "Thank you," "Cupcake," "Teddy bear," and had begun stringing together signs for emotions. Every time Lily got one right, Sophia would lightly tap the back of her small hand, nod, and her eyes would brighten. Sign language, Daniel realized, wasn't just about the hands. It was the art of presence, looking long, waiting long, and honoring silence as part of the answer. One rainy afternoon, Lily hesitantly signed, "Mother," in sky. Sophia paused, placed her hand on her chest to sign believe, then nodded. Daniel turned away, swallowing hard. For a year, he had tried to pull his daughter away from her grief with a packed schedule of appointments. But it turned out what she needed was someone willing to sit with the sadness, not fix it, not deny it. A ritual took shape. Learning, laughing, a small pastry to end the lesson. Every time, Lily would take an extra pastry, place it in front of Sophia, then sign clumsily, "Eat pastry, sadness, go away." Sophia would burst into laughter, signing back, "Pastry, makes today easier." Daniel, sitting nearby, would hear his daughter giggle, a sound like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. In the open kitchen, Sophia worked like a quiet conductor. She weighed flour, folded butter, checked the oven, movement steady and calm. Sometimes strangers' eyes would pause on her, first because of her skin, then because of the small hearing aid behind her ear. Occasionally, Daniel caught whispers. "Is it safe for her to be in the kitchen if she can't hear well?" Sophia couldn't catch every word, but she could feel it, from the way lips moved, the shrug, the half-smile. She would just keep wiping the counter, then turn back to Lily to teach her new signs: safe, trust, brave. In Daniel's chest, a fire began to burn. Admiration for Sophia's composure, and anger at the weight of prejudice pressing on someone who was both black and deaf. After class, Daniel began putting down his phone more often. He moved meetings to the morning, spending afternoons by their learning table, practicing, listening with his eyes. He learned to wait for Lily to finish a full string of signs, to speak less, ask less, nod more. He realized that for the past year he had acted like an engineer, seeing a problem and trying to fix it. Here, healing was about relationship, not algorithms. One long rainy day, the cafe was nearly empty. Daniel brought hot tea to their table and asked, half teasing, half serious, "Sophia, do you ever regret not being able to hear music?" Lily looked at her, waiting for a secret. Sophia smiled, signing slowly so Lily could follow. "Yes, but Grandma said, feel rhythm with your heart. When you listen with your heart, you miss less than people think." The answer fell into Daniel like a warm drop. He realized he had spent the past year with his ears shut to his own pain. Now, he was learning to listen to it, with his eyes, with his heart, and it was saving him. That night, Daniel took out Emily's old wooden box, spreading photos across the table. He called Lily over, not speaking, just signing simple words: mother, love, remember. Lily didn't cry. She placed her finger on a photo of her smiling mother, then signed clumsily, in sky. Daniel nodded, pulling her into an embrace. For the first time, father and daughter faced their grief without fearing it would swallow them. In the days that followed, Sophia's story slowly unspooled like a silent film. She had been born in Mendoza, Argentina, and raised by her grandmother, a woman who had taught herself ASL and passed it on with slow, deliberate gestures. "Grandma said," Sophia voiced slowly while signing for Lily, "hands can create flavor, not just language." At 18, she had signed a few documents at her father's request, matters of property, procedures. Last year, her father died suddenly of a heart attack. Only then did the debts and financial misconduct surface. "Some clients' lawyers thought I knew or benefited," she wrote quickly on paper for Daniel to read, then signed for Lily. "I wasn't charged, but I didn't feel safe anymore. An old friend helped me get a work visa. I came to Seattle." Her tone was steady, but Daniel heard the faint tremor that only someone chased by their past would carry. Daniel said, "If you ever need a good international lawyer, I know a few." Sophia shook her head. "Thank you. I don't want to pull anyone in, especially someone who trusts me enough to share part of Lily's world." That boundary only made Daniel respect her more. He began to notice small details. The way Sophia tilted her head to confirm something. The way she lightly touched the back of Lily's hand as if to say, "It's okay now." The way she wiped the counter in even circles, as though erasing the day's fatigue. From respect, a quiet fondness began to grow, not because she had helped Lily, but because of who she was. Steadfast, dignified, kind. On a clear weekend, Daniel took Lily to Gasworks Park. River winds rippled the water. Children flew kites. Lily held the string, turned to sign, "I can do it?" Daniel signed back, "You can do it." The kite soared, and Lily laughed, a sound sharp and bright, like glass clinking. Daniel turned away so no one would see his eyes glisten. That night, in the kitchen, as he set a bowl on the table, his hand accidentally knocked against the table edge with a soft thunk. He was about to grab a towel when he heard something, faint, like a seed breaking the earth. Dad. It wasn't a sign, it was speech. Daniel froze. He turned. Lily's cheeks flushed. She looked down, clutching her teddy bear. Daniel knelt, eyes burning. "Did you call me, sweetheart?" Lily swallowed, looked up at him, and whispered again, clearer this time. "Dad." That sound, after 2 years of silence, was more beautiful than any symphony. Daniel wrapped her in his arms, feeling as though someone had placed a small sun in his chest. The next day at Pine Café, when he told Sophia, she didn't cheer loudly or clap. She simply smiled deeply, placed her hand over her chest to sign happy, then lightly tapped the back of his hand. Congratulations in the language of presence. While Daniel texted Jason to move their meetings permanently to mornings, clouds began to gather over Seattle outside the cafe window. He didn't yet know that Lily's newly spoken word would also be the guiding light through an oncoming storm. The prying eyes, the sharp headlines, and a woman who would walk in carrying the cold weight of prejudice. Margaret Wyatt. But that was tomorrow's story. Today, Lily had said, "Dad," and that was enough to set the world back on its axis. The glass door of Pine Café swung open, the bell giving the faintest chime. The air shifted temperature, as though a block of cold had just walked in. A woman in a dark trench coat, hair neatly pinned, steps firm, Margaret Wyatt. Daniel looked up, and the smile on his face dimmed as if someone had turned down a light. In the corner of the open kitchen, Sofia Delgado was guiding Lily through a string of signs. Hello, thank you, safe. Neither of them knew the storm was already standing behind them. Daniel. Margaret set her handbag on the table, her voice low but sharp as a knife's edge. We need to talk. Daniel rose, casting a quick glance toward Lily before lowering his voice. Mom, can we step outside? But Margaret's eyes had already swept over to Sophia, lingering a beat on the small hearing aid in the warm brown skin. She gave a small nod, a thin smile. Hello. Daniel swallowed. Mom, this is Sophia, the cafe's baker. She's been teaching Lily ASL. Oh. Margaret tilted her head. I see. Sophia smiled, signing slowly. Very nice to meet you. Margaret didn't understand the sign, but she understood the smile as a greeting. She returned it with a polite nod, just enough to keep her distance, before steering Daniel toward a table by the window. Outside, Seattle's rain was falling in a thin veil. What exactly are you doing? Margaret began, wasting no time. Bringing her here every afternoon, letting a deaf baker teach her this hand language? Have you thought more than one step ahead? Daniel kept his voice steady. Mom, Lily is reconnecting. We're in the middle of the Tokyo deal, Margaret cut in. Financial reports, media, investors, they're all watching you. They expect the image of a model father, a steady leader, not. She paused, glanced toward the kitchen and chose her words carefully. A complicated relationship with a woman of unclear past and limited communication. Daniel gripped the table edge. You don't know her. I know life, Margaret leaned back, her voice lowering. People aren't as kind as you think. They won't see a quiet teacher. They'll see headlines. Young CEO dating deaf black baker. They'll dig. Your career, your name, Lily. Don't use Lily's name to push me, Daniel said slowly. She smiled here for the first time since the accident, and last night she called me Dad. The words made Margaret hesitate for the briefest moment. A thin mist passed over her eyes, but only for a moment. Good, she said. Then all the more reason to put her in the hands of a real specialist, in the right place, with the right image. And what's right, Mom? Daniel's voice was hoarse. Someone who looks good on paper? A shiny CV? Or someone who will sit with her grief without flinching? Margaret met her son's eyes, the same eyes she'd once steadied through financial storms, now reflecting him back at himself. "You decide," she said quietly. "This family has standards. I won't let your life veer off course over a fleeting feeling." In the kitchen, Lily looked up, catching a few sharp glances between the adults. She stepped back. Sophia laid a gentle hand on the back of her small hand, signing, "Okay, we keep learning?" Lily nodded, piecing the broken rhythm of signs back together. The conversation ended without a hug. Margaret left the cafe, her cold perfume lingering in the air. Daniel stood by the glass for a long time. Behind him, Sophia approached, brushing his sleeve lightly to signal her presence, signing slowly. "I am okay, don't worry." "It's not you who has to be okay," Daniel said, his voice thick. "It's us." Sophia shook her head, her small, steady smile returning. "Lily first. Always." That night, Jason Cole called. "I hear your mother's in town." His voice was unusually serious. "Daniel, I need you to stay calm. PR says a paparazzo caught you carrying Lily outside the cafe. Sophia's in the frame, flower on her hands. Don't panic. It might not hit the press, but you know." "Know what?" Daniel asked, though he already did. "Framing." Jason exhaled. "They're not going to write, 'The woman who helped a child find her voice.' They'll write whatever sells. We're running the autism awareness campaign next quarter, and the face of it is the devoted father. PR can't fight a divisive personal story angle. I need you to be careful for a few weeks." Daniel looked over at Lily lining up her stuffed animals, then at the little box of pastries Sophia had sent home with a neat note. "Good job today, Star." He closed his eyes. "I'll be careful," he said, "but I won't hide." The next morning, the photo was on the front page of a local tabloid, and within hours it was pushed to a major news site. Tech CEO Daniel Wyatt spotted cozy with deaf baker at Pine Café. Subheading: "Sources say the woman has an unclear legal past in Argentina." The piece was vague enough to let readers fill in their own malice. At the cafe, there were more customers than usual. The air was different. The click of hidden cameras under sleeves, lingering stares, whispered conversations that stopped mid-sentence when Sophia walked by. She couldn't hear it all, but she could feel it. Lily clung tighter to her sleeve. Sophia signed to Lily, "Breathe," like kneading dough. Even slow. Lily obeyed, her shoulders loosening just a little. A middle-aged woman approached the counter, her voice sweet but stiff. "You're Sophia? Oh, wonderful. My daughter loves the pastries here, but, in the kitchen, hearing is important, right? What if the oven timer rings and—" She stopped, smiling as if she'd asked something harmless. Sophia smiled back, quickly writing on a small board. "I use timers and feel the vibrations. The kitchen is safe. Thank you for asking." The customer faltered, turned away. Daniel saw the whole exchange, gripping his coffee cup until his knuckles whitened. That night, Margaret sent a single text. "If you let this go further, don't expect me to clean up after you." Daniel read it, put his phone down, and sat beside Lily as she drew. She drew 3 people, a woman with curly hair tied high, a man, and a little girl holding a teddy bear. Above them were curved lines like signing hands. Daniel didn't dare ask what she called the picture. He just stayed there until she fell asleep. And that same night, in the back corner of Pine Café, Sophia folded a piece of paper in half and tucked it into her old cloth bag. She looked at her hands, hands that both spoke and kneaded dough, then toward the window black as a still lake. In her eyes, resolve and fear layered together like two parts of dough yet to be kneaded into one. She knew the second storm was coming, and this time it wouldn't just be about stairs. Tuesday morning, Pine Café was packed before the rush hour even began. Two reporters, calling themselves food bloggers, clutched their cameras like weapons. Jason's calls came rapid fire. "Daniel, don't show up today. The tabloid piece has been reposted by major news sites. The comments are split into camps. Someone dug up Mendoza, debt, misconduct. There's no evidence against Sophia, but the internet doesn't care about evidence. Give me 48 hours to put out the fire." "Jason, you know I don't run," Daniel replied, eyes fixed on the cafe's glass front. Inside, Sophia was teaching Lily to sign scared, but brave. With each sign, she placed a breath in the palm of Lily's hand, the same way she did when kneading dough. Slow and steady. Mid-morning, a burly man in a baseball cap blocked the kitchen doorway and threw out a question. "Is it true you were involved in Argentina?" He spoke loud enough for every hidden microphone to catch. Sophia looked him straight in the eye and wrote, "I was never charged. My lawyer is handling it. Ask me anything, but don't aim at the child." The man shrugged, turned toward the camera. "Not denying it, huh?" That shrug became a headline just hours later. Under the circle of stairs, Lily trembled. She stepped back half a pace, her eyes darting for Daniel. He was already there, resting his hand on her shoulder. "I'm here," he said softly. Sophia signed to them both. "Break. Kitchen. Now." They retreated into the kitchen, the half-closed door muffling the noise. In the kitchen, the scent of vanilla, butter, and sugar wrapped the air like a blanket. Sophia reached into her cloth bag and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. She placed it on the wooden table, sliding it toward Daniel. Her hand shook slightly. Daniel looked at it, but didn't open it. "What is this?" Sophia spoke slowly, each word measured like she was pressing dough into a mold. "A letter?" Then she signed for Lily. "I don't want you to be hurt. If I leave, the storm will be smaller." "No," Daniel said instantly, on instinct. "You're not the storm. They are." Sophia shook her head, a tired smile on her lips. "The news will swallow Lily. I am the adult. I can take it. She can't." Her eyes burned with the weary courage of someone used to walking into the wind. He wanted to speak 100 arguments, but his throat was dry. All he could do was open the paper. Round handwriting, no wasted strokes. "I don't want to be the reason you or Lily get hurt. If I leave, things will calm down. Think of me as a small breeze that lit a spark, then moved on. I'm grateful for having been here." "Why?" Daniel said quietly. "Is leaving always your way of letting others avoid learning how to stay?" Sophia didn't answer. She placed her hand over her chest and signed, "This is how I protect." Then she grabbed her cloth bag and turned. At that moment, Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes wide. She had followed every movement, and though she couldn't hear the words outside, she could feel the current pulling someone she loved away. She looked at the paper on the table, then at Sophia's clenched grip on the bag strap. Lily rushed forward, grabbing Sophia's hand, pulling her back. The small hands that had only recently learned to speak through signs now clenched so tightly the knuckles turned white. She signed urgently, her signs messy and jumbled, but her meaning clear. "Don't go, you understand. Me, you, here, not sad." Sophia wavered. She knelt to Lily's eye level and wrapped her in her arms. The little chest trembled against hers. Daniel stood 2 steps away, the shortest distance of his life that felt the heaviest. Then it happened. The thing he had prayed for on sleepless nights. Lily opened her mouth. At first, it was a small, broken sound, as faint as a fingertip tapping the rim of a glass. Then it became a sentence, slow, clear, deliberate. Don't let Hersey go. Time broke open. The clink of spoons, the scrape of chairs outside, all vanished. Only the raspy child's voice remained, like a sapling breaking through the soil to meet the sun. Sophia pulled back just enough to look into Lily's eyes. Tears streamed down her face, but a smile bloomed as she signed each word Lily spoke, etching them into memory. Don't let her go. Daniel sank to his knees beside them. In that moment, all the things that had once been the center of his universe, growth charts, calls with Tokyo, shareholder posts, slid into the shadows. Before him were his new centers, a child who had just found her voice again, and a woman who had kept it from going out. Outside, someone snapped a photo through the gap in the kitchen door. A frame of 3 people in an embrace, dusted with sugar, tears and smiles woven together. That image would later be ripped from its context to serve other narratives, but in that exact minute, it was only the truth. Daniel placed his hand on Lily's shoulder, then on Sophia's. He spoke, slow and firm, so they could both read his lips. No one is going anywhere. He drew a deep breath, as if bracing to push open a heavy steel door. From this moment, nothing, not even my company, will silence you again. Sophia looked at him, and saw a resolve unlike the brittle strength he had tried to show before. This resolve wasn't fighting pain, but standing with it. She gave a small nod. Lily lifted her hands and signed a clumsy yet piercingly beautiful phrase. We are home. Out front, the doorbell jingled again. The media storm was far from over, but in the kitchen a different storm had just passed. It had torn through hesitation, leaving a bright clearing for the decision ahead. Daniel rose, pulling out his phone, not to hide in meetings, but to say what needed to be said. He looked at Lily, then Sophia. "Give me a minute," he whispered. "I know what I have to do." The kitchen door at Pine Café had barely closed when Daniel pulled out his phone. He looked at Sophia and Lily for a long beat, as if signing an invisible promise to himself, then dialed Jason Cole. "Pick up," Jason said the moment he answered. "I just stepped out of a meeting. The Tokyo partners want a fast-track signing next week, and the press—" "Jason, stop!" Daniel cut him off, his voice calm but so unfamiliar that Jason went silent. "We're not going to Tokyo right now." "What did you just say?" Jason nearly shot out of his chair. "Daniel, we've spent 8 months negotiating, piles of due diligence. Investors are hanging their hopes on this deal. What do you want me to tell them?" "Tell them the company can wait," Daniel said, eyes never leaving Lily. "But my daughter can't. I'm going public with the story, resetting how we build this company. If we have to rebuild, we'll do it in a more human way." On the other end, Jason let out a long sigh, then spoke slowly. "I'm not arguing the right thing to do. I'm arguing the cost. The board is going to explode." "Let it," Daniel replied. "This afternoon, get everyone in the room." He hung up and returned to the wooden table. Sophia was still kneeling at Lily's eye level. Her hands were signing steady breaths, guiding the child's trembling rhythm back down. Daniel sat with them. "I just froze Tokyo," he said, speaking slowly so Sophia could read his lips. "I'll talk to the press, but first, I'm meeting the board." Sophia shook her head, reaching for the letter. Daniel pressed her hand down gently, not to stop her, but to stay with her. "Don't go anywhere," he said softly. They can call you anything they want, but here we call each other by name. That afternoon, in the glass-walled boardroom of North Star AI, the table was stacked with Tokyo deal binders, growth charts, and for the first time a printout from a tabloid. Daniel holding Lily. Behind him, Sophia, her hands dusted with flour. The board chair sat straight. Daniel, the timing is terrible. Which is exactly why I want to choose, Daniel said plainly. Either we keep playing the part, a company that talks about education and children, but whose leadership hides his daughter and the woman who helped her find her voice because it might look bad, or we stand upright, tell the truth, act on it, and design every product and campaign with an accessibility-first philosophy. A board member tapped a pen. Daniel, don't turn your personal drama into company strategy. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. I'm not turning anything. I'm seeing. An 8-year-old relearned speech through ASL. We're building an educational interaction platform without sign language, without real-time captions, without haptic cues for deaf children. Oh, that's not sentiment, that's a product gap. The room was still for several seconds. The CFO leaned forward slightly. If we pause Tokyo, we need a replacement roadmap. Cut 15% from vanity marketing spend, push it into accessibility R&D, Daniel replied immediately. Launch North Star Learn, Access Pack, ASL Overlay, Features, Auto Captions, a Sign With Me interface. And, he paused, looking through the rain-streaked glass over the city. I'll hold a press conference, not to polish the image, but to take the mask off. The chair folded his arms. If you're wrong, we lose valuation. If I'm right, Daniel said, we gain a soul. Another stretch of silence. Then Jason spoke. I'm with Daniel. We've talked about values for 5 years. It's time to live them. The meeting ended with a provisional agreement. Tokyo paused for 2 weeks. Daniel allowed to hold a press conference, and a task force formed for the Access Pack. Not everyone was happy, but no one walked out. That evening, back at Daniel's apartment, Margaret stood by the window, a cup of tea in hand. You've just done something reckless, she said without turning. Canceling Tokyo, letting the press see you weak. I'm not weak, Daniel replied, so steady that Margaret had to turn. I'm choosing. The woman you called complicated taught my daughter to speak again. I'm not trading that for a pretty headline. Margaret held his gaze for a long moment. I don't hate her because she's deaf or because her skin is dark. I hate the risk. Do you remember how your father died? One bad decision, one risk. I remember, Daniel said, his tone softening briefly. But fear isn't the only legacy we pass on. She said nothing. Before leaving, she placed an envelope on the table. Lawyer, for when you misjudge the goodwill of the world. Daniel didn't pick it up. He poured water, took it to his daughter's room. Lily was drawing, a bakery with a blank signboard. What store is that? He asked. She looked up, smiled, and signed, Cake, Roots, Sweet. Then she scrawled beneath the picture, Sweet Roots. The next day, at Pine Café, the owner posted a sign, No filming minors. Daniel hired a security guard for peak hours. He sent a legal warning to the outlet that had fabricated the Argentina source story. Sophia stood behind the counter watching the changes with gratitude and hesitation. I don't want to turn this place into a trench, she said slowly, carefully enough for Daniel to catch every word. People come here for coffee. They need peace. So do I, Daniel smiled. That's why I'll create it. Let me and Jason carry the noise. He handed her a white invitation card, a press conference on Saturday at a small community center, not a glitzy hotel. In the corner was the hand sign ILY, I love you in ASL, embossed faintly like a watermark. You don't have to be there, Daniel said, but I want an ASL interpreter, and I want to say it all, that you're the woman I love. Sophia was quiet for a long time. Her eyes carried two opposite currents. One, to protect Lily by staying away from cameras, the other to stop running. She looked toward the little girl practicing signs in the cafe mirror. If someone asks, "Why is a deaf black woman standing next to a young CEO?" she said softly. "What will you say?" Daniel thought for a moment, then answered, "Because she taught me how to listen." Sophia exhaled, nodded. "All right, but on one condition. No one turns this into cheap PR. Don't make me the human interest piece and then forget everything the next day." "Deal," Daniel said, offering his hand. She took it, not for show, but to walk through the storm. The night before the press conference, Jason sent a Q&A sheet. Tough questions, preemptive strike talking points, short, sharp answers. Daniel read it, then marked red lines through sections. Cut the polish, drop the jargon, keep the truth simple. At the top, he handwrote, "No defense, only truth." In the apartment, Lily practiced in front of the mirror. "Hello, I am Lily. I want to go, want to stand next to Dad." Daniel waited, then nodded. "You can stand with me, but if you get tired, tell me." Lily nodded firmly, as serious as if signing a contract. Sophia, meanwhile, sat alone on her windowsill, the cloth bag beside her. She took out the folded goodbye letter. This time, she tore it into thin strips and dropped them into a ceramic bowl. On the sill was a vanilla-scented candle. She lit it. The paper curled, releasing a thin stream of smoke. She watched the flame, placed her hand over her chest, and signed to herself in the dark glass, "Stay." And somewhere across the city, the hot headlines kept rolling, the sharp comments kept digging in, but tomorrow morning they would have their own voice, one that didn't need to shout, only to be clear. Saturday. The multi-purpose room at the Fremont Community Center was warm enough for people to take off their coats, simple enough that words wouldn't be drowned out by the backdrop. In the front row, ASL interpreter Maya Ross stood beside the podium, checking the mic and lighting. Daniel, in a white shirt without a tie, held Lily's hand tightly. Across the room, Sophia entered with her familiar cloth bag and steady eyes. She stood at the back, not hiding in the shadows, but standing firm. The camera lights came on. Jason gave a nod. Daniel stepped up to the podium and took a deep breath. "Good morning," he said slowly, giving Maya time to sign smoothly. "My name is Daniel Wyatt, and this is my daughter, Lily." He paused briefly, scanning the room as if looking each person in the eye. "I'm not here to talk about products or valuation. I'm here to tell the truth. I am in a relationship with an extraordinary woman. She doesn't hear the way we do, but she listens with her whole heart. Her name is Sofia Delgado." A faint ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd like a light breeze. Cameras clicked. Maya signed each word with steady rhythm. At the back, Sophia stood still, but her eyes trembled ever so slightly. Lily squeezed her father's hand tighter. "For 2 years," Daniel continued, "I tried to fix my daughter's pain with every method possible. Nothing worked like presence and respect. Sophia has taught Lily ASL every day, patiently laying each brick of a bridge. This week, when Sophia was ready to leave to protect us from the noise, Lily spoke. Don't let her go. That is the most beautiful sentence I've ever heard." A reporter raised a hand. "Are you using this story to polish your image for the upcoming education campaign?" "No," Daniel answered without blinking. I'm using this story to wake myself up. But since I'm the CEO, what I do next is also what the company will do. We've paused the Tokyo deal. We're adding the Access Pack, real-time captions, ASL overlay, haptic prompts, to our product roadmap. Not because it looks good, but because it's right. Are you giving special treatment to your girlfriend? Another reporter followed up. She's rumored to have a shady legal past. I won't comment on rumors, Daniel said, his voice dropping half a tone. I'll say this. In a city that teaches us to follow procedure, remember that a person's dignity exists before any procedure can validate it. As for my part, I've worked with an attorney. Anyone fabricating stories will be held accountable. Jason made a quick wrap-it-up gesture, but Daniel raised a hand, asking for one more minute. He turned to Maya. Sorry, may I borrow your hands? He lifted both hands in front of his chest and slowly signed I-L-Y, I love you, then signed thank you. This is the language that brought my daughter back, he said, and from today, every North Star event will have ASL interpretation. A silence fell. Then, not thunderous, but steady and genuine, applause began. Some still furrowed their brows in calculation. A few clapped slower with suspicion, but most applauded. At the back, Sophia placed a hand over her chest, signing a small, private thank you. When the conference ended, Daniel stepped down from the stage. Lily wanted to speak. She looked up at the side mic and said slowly, My name is Lily. Then she signed the greeting again, her face flushed. The room chuckled warmly. A female reporter approached, crouching to Lily's eye level. Thank you for being so brave, she said. Maya interpreted. Lily smiled, then backed into her father's arm. In the hallway, Margaret had been standing there for who knew how long, her dark scarf draped over her shoulders. She didn't enter, but she didn't leave. As Daniel walked past, she said quietly, You've just placed a period. Then, after a beat, or maybe a capital letter. Daniel didn't answer, just nodded. She glanced toward Sophia at the end of the hall, no longer with the evaluating a variable look, but the seeing a person look. Still, she stayed silent. Her journey would take time. A few days later, the news cycle shifted pace. Alongside the venom came balanced articles, from ASL to Access Pack, when tech learns the language of the heart. A deaf teacher posted a video teaching 5 basic signs, tagging it North Star. Conversations in the community began to focus not on the romance, but on accessibility. Daniel kept his word, forming the Access Pack product team, inviting a deaf advisor into decision-making. Jason handled ASL data licensing. Daniel handled the budget. They were finally touching real work. As for Sophia, she carried the dream Lily had once drawn. Sweet Roots. A small bakery where sweet was not just sugar, but the feeling of belonging. Daniel asked, Can I invest? Sophia met his gaze. You can walk alongside me. But ownership is mine. Daniel smiled. Deal. They found a space in Ballard, an old shop with large street-facing windows, hardwood floors that needed polishing, and exposed brick walls beautiful as untold stories. While cleaning, Lily chalked on the wall, where happiness smells like sugar. Sophia snapped a photo, later printing it as a poster to hang in the corner. We'll need staff, Sophia said. At least 2 deaf employees and 1 apprentice. Daniel suggested, Let's do a sign of the day. Put it on the blackboard, and anyone who orders using the sign gets 10% off. Sophia laughed. You're trying to make the whole city learn sign language? No, Daniel said. I'm trying to give the city a taste of what it feels like to be understood. On opening day, Jason stood at the door handing out small cards with 5 basic signs. Maya worked part-time as interpreter. Customers walked in, surrounded by the smell of butter, sugar, vanilla, and something warm that was hard to name. At the counter, Sophia signed with Noah, the deaf apprentice, about the next batch. Renee, a young baker, taught a little girl how to sign "thank you." No one had to shout. Everyone was seen. Of course, not every day was sunshine. A nasty comment slipped into the cafe's fan page, an anonymous letter to the press, a customer annoyed at having to watch people wave their hands around. But the cafe stayed warm, the hands stayed flurry, the bread kept rising. And one afternoon the door opened. Margaret stepped inside, removing her sunglasses. She walked to the counter looking at the sign of the day board. Renee smiled and guided her hands through it. Margaret hesitated, then signed slowly. "Thank you. Not perfect, but an effort." Sophia nodded and replied flawlessly, "Happy to serve you." Margaret paused half a second, then smiled. For the first time, it wasn't cold. Later in the day, Daniel dropped by and spotted his mother at a corner table, a lemon cupcake before her. She pointed at the poster, "Where happiness smells like sugar." "She wrote that?" she asked. Daniel nodded. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "I won't promise it will be easy. But today is easier than yesterday." Daniel glanced over at Sophia, adjusting Lily's hand shapes in the kids' ASL class wrapping up for the day. He knew the storm wasn't fully gone, but the sky had cleared in patches, and in that clearing, Sweet Roots didn't just bake bread, it baked trust, the belief that people can learn to understand each other. That night, before closing, Sophia chalked a short sentence on the board. "Some languages need no words." Underneath, Lily carefully signed 3 small words: home, us, here. The small meeting room at North Star was packed. On the screen, the Access Pack prototype was running. Real-time captions, an ASL hand avatar overlay, and a gentle haptic buzz for important keywords. Maya Ross stood beside the board, interpreting while giving feedback, and Ari Jenkins, the newly recruited deaf advisor, typed quickly on a laptop. Don't let captions swallow emotion. Need facial grammar layer for proper ASL syntax. Noah, the deaf intern from Sweet Roots, pointed at the Sign With Me practice module. Add slower feedback so beginners don't panic. Daniel looked at the team, seeing for the first time that his decisions had taken on real substance. "Send the test pack over to Greenwood Elementary this afternoon," he said. "Let the kids be the judges." That afternoon, the Greenwood activity room was crowded with children. When the Access Pack went live, captions kept up with the teacher's words, the hand avatar signed simple sentences, and the kids' wrists buzzed gently when it was exercise time. A girl giggled when captions misheard cake as cane. Maya raised her hand to request a fix, and the engineers patched the algorithm live from a laptop. The lesson's rhythm didn't break. At the end, one boy tapped the device and signed, "I feel I can hear." Daniel heard that word "hear" through the boy's hands, and his throat burned warm. That evening, the CFO texted, "Cash burn is rising because Tokyo's been delayed. Need a cash flow plan." Jason replied with a projection sheet featuring the Access Pack. 6 school districts had expressed interest. 2 schools had signed letters of intent. Not a miracle, but momentum. At Sweet Roots, the storm still blew. Online, a few anonymous accounts called to boycott the deaf baker's shop. Foot traffic dipped, enough for Sophia to hesitate when scooping flour. But the Sign of the Day board kept pulling people in. Students, parents, even construction workers stopping to learn thank you for a 10% discount. The hashtag number sign the order started circulating through the city. Renee taped up a hand-drawn sign. If you order using sign language, you've learned a new language today. Not everyone liked it, but many wanted to try. In the middle of it all, Mendoza's shadow knocked on the door. That afternoon, Sophia received an email from the Fiscalía Provincial de Mendoza. You are invited to provide testimony via teleconference. You are not a subject of prosecution. This is part of the review process. It was legal, polite, but the phrase "not a subject" was quickly twisted by a blog into "involved in." The comment threads heated up. Daniel read the letter and exhaled. At least it's clear. Jason was cautious. Clear to people who know the law, but the internet not so much. He suggested setting up both legal and communications teams, scheduling the remote testimony at a law office. Late that night, Margaret appeared at Sweet Roots. No entourage, no cold perfume. She stood at the counter, glancing awkwardly at the sign of the day board. Renee smiled and guided her through it. Margaret's thank you was stiff, but earnest. Sophia stepped out from the kitchen, removed her gloves, wiped her hands. The two women stood facing each other, vanilla in the air and a thick silence between them. I owe you something, Margaret began, her voice rougher than usual. The other day, I judged you through my fear. I've been protecting my son the old way, controlling risk, shaping image. But I've seen my son stand the tallest when he's next to you. Sophia met her eyes, not stepping back. I'm afraid too, but leaving isn't always the right way to protect. Margaret gave the faintest nod, as if conceding a lesson. She placed a card on the counter. Alicia Morgan, Escure International Counsel. A friend of mine, she said. I've spoken to the consulate. You can give your testimony from Seattle. I can't promise to be warm overnight, but today I'm standing with you. Sophia took the card, eyes glistening. She signed slowly to be sure Margaret understood, even without knowing ASL, thank you. They sat in a corner booth. Margaret asked about Sophia's grandmother, about listening with the heart, and then, like a small crack in an old wall, spoke about her husband, lost to one reckless decision, and how the fear of failure had turned her love into a selective blade. I'm afraid Daniel will repeat history, she said. But history doesn't repeat if you learn it. The next day brought both good and bad news. Good. Greenwood sent a thank you letter, inviting North Star to demo again. A private school even offered to pay for beta access. Bad, an influencer posted a video calling for a Sweet Roots boycott, mocking waving your hands to beg for a discount. One-star reviews spiked. Sophia held her phone, lips pressed tight. Daniel pulled it from her hand. Don't read real people. He motioned to close the cafe for an hour. A small sign went on the door, silent hour. During that hour, anyone entering the cafe ordered only in sign. Those who didn't know were taught at the door, with Maya interpreting. No music, no noise, only hands and eyes. By the end, a group of truck drivers stumbled through a thank you, grinning sheepishly like school kids. The hashtag #Silent Hour Seattle climbed the local trending list. That night, Daniel brought Lily home. She scribbled in her notebook, "Tomorrow, I'll teach Grandma the sign for love." Daniel laughed. Then his smile faded at the email. The board had called a special meeting for next week. Jason messaged privately, "One member wants to discuss replacing the CEO for emotional decision-making." Daniel glanced at Sophia, turning off the cafe lights. He knew. The next storm wouldn't just be public opinion. It would be about power. But in his mind there were new anchors. Margaret's card, the polite letter from the Mendoza prosecutor, the steady stream of people joining Silent Hour. Not a victory, but clearly not alone. Late at night, in front of the mirror, Daniel practiced one line for the board meeting. Not a metric, not a chart. A definition. Leadership is choosing people, even when it costs. He didn't know how they'd vote, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of the answer. Monday. The conference room at Alicia Morgan's law firm had been transformed into a small courtroom. A large screen showed the office of the Fiscalia de Mendoza. The court reporter's keys clacked. A Spanish-English interpreter sat beside Maya Ross. Sophia sat upright, her cloth bag tucked under her chair. Daniel sat behind her, far enough not to intrude, close enough to read her lips. "Do you confirm your signature on the transfer documents?" The prosecutor's voice came through the speakers from the screen. "Yes," Sophia said slowly, signing alongside her speech to keep her rhythm. "But I did not know it was an illegal asset transfer. I acted on my father's request and received no benefit." "Did you receive any money afterward?" "No." "Can you provide your account information?" "Yes." And so it went for 3 hours. No raised voices, no ambushes, just lawful questions, steady answers. Finally, the prosecutor read a single line. "You are not a subject of investigation. Your testimony will be kept on file. We will send an official confirmation letter within 14 days. The screen went dark. Maya gave a tired smile and signed ILY. Sophia exhaled, her shoulders lowering as if she had just set down a tray far too heavy. Stepping into the lobby, they ran into cameras. A reporter threw out, "How does it feel to get off?" Daniel stepped in front, voice cold. "She didn't get off anything. She cooperated. She's clean. We're waiting for the confirmation letter. Right now, let her breathe." He didn't shout, but the weight in his words made them step back. Meanwhile, at North Star, the special board meeting began. The chair opened bluntly. "A group of shareholders has proposed reviewing the CEO's position. Reasons: Tokyo cancellation, media risk." Daniel brought no slides. Instead, he brought a few letters. Lois from schools, thank you emails from Greenwood parents, and a short handwritten note. "If our product leaves out the deaf, the blind, the autistic, we are leaving out children." A member slid over a newspaper. "This is a tech company, not a charity." "Precisely because it's tech," Daniel replied, "it cannot exclude an entire group. The access pack won't make us poorer. It makes us right and opens a new market." The vote began. The board display rolled, 3 in favor of keeping Daniel, 3 against, 1 abstaining. All eyes turned to the empty seat. One member was on the way. The room waited, air thick. Jason swallowed hard. Daniel looked out through the glass and saw a heavy cloud sitting on the city's roof. The door opened. The person who walked in wasn't the missing member. It was Margaret. She had no voting rights, but sat in the gallery, placing an envelope in front of her. "You're not on the board," the chair said, frowning. "I'm part of the individual shareholder group," Margaret said evenly. "And I'd like 2 minutes." A reluctant nod. She looked each member in the eye. "You hired Daniel for his cool head. Today, he's put his heart on the table. I used to think that was weakness. But I've seen results. 6 school districts knocking. A community coming back to the company because they see we're listening. I've spoken to 2 funds. If you try to oust my son today, they'll walk." She pushed the envelope forward. "This is a pledge of additional investment if the board keeps the access pack strategy and gives Daniel 2 quarters to prove it." No applause, but no one left. The late member entered, looked around, sat, and voted to keep him. The display ticked over, 4-3. Jason sank into his chair, exhaling like he'd just swum a lake. That afternoon, the city spoke, too. At Sweet Roots, Silent Hour became Bridge Day. ASL letters taped across the walls, parents bringing kids to learn, college volunteers teaching. Noah manned the counter, signing rapid fire with a group of high schoolers. Renee drew hand-shaped cookies. Maya made coffee while interpreting. The tip jar overflowed. Sophia poured it into a scholarship fund for kids to learn sign language. Darkness still lingered. After school, a paparazzo waited outside Lily's gate. The flash made her flinch, her hands fumbling mid-sign. Daniel slammed on the brakes, stepped out, and blocked the camera. School security rushed over. A few parents formed an impromptu wall to usher the children inside. That night, the lawyer filed for a restraining order against the photographer. Night brought a calmer apartment. Lily slept, hugging her teddy bear. Daniel and Sophia sat on the windowsill, the city blurred in fine rain. "I'm scared," Sophia said, slowly enough to hear the word herself. "Not scared of us. Scared of the price you'll pay." "I'm scared too," Daniel admitted. "But being scared into silence costs more." He looked at the sugar streaks on her hands. "You're not some romanticized version of suffering. You're a person. And I want to walk with a person." Sophia was quiet for a long time. She laid her hand on his, signing a single word, "Stay." Nothing more was needed. The next morning, the law firm's inbox chimed. The Mendoza prosecutor's office sent a provisional confirmation. Ms. Delgado is not a subject of investigation in case number. Testimony was taken to complete the factual record. Jason attached the email to a short, plain press release. The influencer boycott post lost traction as people began sharing videos of kids signing to order pastries at Sweet Roots. That evening, the rain stopped. In the cafe's backyard, yellow lights hung along the trees. Lily set up a stage from wooden crates, teaching other kids a few signs. "Hello, thank you, cake." Margaret sat in the back row, her hands slow but patient as she repeated each sign. When Lily signed love, Margaret hesitated, then followed, her smile trembling just a bit. Daniel stood just inside the door, watching 3 generations, a child, a deaf black woman, a mother relearning how to soften. He knew no miracle could erase every storm, but no storm could outlast them if they stayed patient. Sometimes outlasting the storm was enough. In the sound of children's laughter, Daniel touched his shirt pocket. Inside, a small box rested, unopened. Not tonight, but soon, because every explanation was now in place. Only one question remained, waiting for the right moment to be asked. 3 days after the remote testimony, the law firm's inbox chimed. A short, dry but warm sound. The Mendoza prosecutor's office had sent an official document, stamped in red, confirming that Sophia Delgado was not a subject of investigation, that her testimony was recorded according to procedure, and that there were no legal grounds binding her. Alicia Morgan forwarded it to Daniel, Jason, and Margaret. Jason exhaled after reading it. "This is our media anchor." Daniel just nodded. He didn't feel triumphant, only lighter, like someone who had just set down a tray that was far too heavy. Good news didn't make life all sunshine. That afternoon, someone spray-painted a messy "Go Home" across Sweet Roots' front window. Within 5 minutes, neighbors had gathered. The elderly bookstore owner, the young Vietnamese couple from the corner, a few students, even Maya Ross and Noah. They brought cloths and glass cleaner. Renee carried out a tray of fresh chayote pastries to share. No one chanted slogans, Only hands and eyes worked. As the paint faded, Lily quietly chalked on the blackboard, "This is home." Underneath, she signed slowly, "Home, us, here." A woman walking past stopped, smiled, and signed along. At North Star, the race to turn ideas into a finished product was still fierce. The CFO was blunt. "Cash will be tight if we don't have access pack revenue this quarter." Jason laid 3 new LOIs on the table, plus a paid beta contract. "We have momentum." Ari Jenkins typed quickly, "Don't cut the avatar's facial expression layer. That's ASL grammar, not decoration." Daniel nodded. "We don't sacrifice quality for numbers." He knew. If he wanted the board to believe that human didn't mean inefficient, the product had to be polished enough to make even skeptics nod. That evening, Margaret stopped by Sweet Roots. She no longer stood at the doorway's threshold. She walked straight to the counter, looked at the sign of the day board, and signed slowly. "Thank you." "Today, I learned the sign for proud," she said, turning to Maya to check her hand shape. Maya smiled, guiding her. Margaret's hands still stiff but trying to shape them right. When she finished, she turned toward Sophia and signed it again. Sophia froze for half a beat, then smiled warmly. "Thank you." That night, Daniel received a compiled update. 6 school districts expressing intent to buy. 1 private school signed. Local media was starting to pivot from personal gossip to accessibility in education. He shut off the screen and told himself, enough. Tonight is for home. Sweet Root's backyard was small, but it breathed. A few strands of yellow lights hung in a crisscross, pots of mint and lavender along the fence. The smell of vanilla from the oven still hung in the air. Lily dashed around with Noah, signing random news signs for fun as they ran. Sophia sat on a wooden chair, flowers still dusting her hands, hair loosely pinned. Daniel walked over, sat across from her. He didn't bring a speech, just steady breathing, and a small box in his shirt pocket. "I used to think I was someone who fixed things," Daniel began, speaking slowly so his lips were clear. "But you taught me how to stay with sadness, to stay with people. And I want to stay with you for a long time." He raised his hands, signing each word as slow and beautiful as he could. "Will you marry me?" Sophia looked at him. In her eyes, the storm had just passed, leaving a clear patch of sky. She didn't hold out her hand immediately. She touched Lily's cheek. The child had just run up, breathless, eyes bright as 2 pomegranate seeds. Then Sophia placed that hand over her own heart and signed, "Yes." Daniel opened the box. The ring wasn't large nor flashy. A slim band of silver with a tiny engraving inside, "Listen." He slipped it onto her finger. Sophia let out a soft laugh, like sugar crystals breaking under a bite. Lily lunged forward, hugging them both at once, then leaned back and announced, speaking slowly but clearly, "I agree, if I get to make the wedding cake." Daniel laughed out loud, Sophia laughing until her eyes watered. "And," Lily added, her small hands signing like drum beats, "wedding must have interpreter. So everyone can see how beautiful love is." "Deal," Daniel said, nodding seriously like he'd just signed an M&A. "Non-negotiable term." Through the laughter, Maya signed congratulations from the doorway. Renee popped her head out. "Need a cake tasting?" Noah was at the wooden board, arranging ASL letters into ILY, then turned to give them a wink. As night fell and the others left, Daniel and Sophia stayed behind. He told her about the board meeting, how he nearly lost his seat, then kept it thanks to the final vote and Margaret's intervention. She told him about the Mendoza email, about the relief of someone seeing her without treating her like a question mark. They didn't promise forever without storms. Only this: when storms came, they would stand together. The wedding took place a month later, as simple as a beautiful afternoon. In the backyard of Sweet Roots, wooden chairs in a circle, yellow string lights, a green arch of leaves. Maya stood next to the officiant, wearing a neutral dress so her signing hand stood out clearly. Daniel in a navy suit, Sophia in a perfectly fitted white dress with her hair pinned high, a sprig of lavender tucked in. Lily wore a white apron and a tiny chef's hat, as serious as if she were catering her own private Oscars. When it came to the vows, Daniel spoke first, then signed each word. Sophia replied in ASL, then said slowly, "I choose to stay." The deaf guests and the hearing guests understood. No one was left at the edges. The cake, Lily's of course, was a multi-tier vanilla butter cake, topped with small sugar hands. Next to it, a wooden sign read, "Today, learn a new sign." Guests passed around small cards with 5 basic signs printed on them. Margaret stood in the garden's corner, practicing proud, then discreetly wiping her eyes behind her glasses. When the music, played softly, started, Sophia couldn't hear it, but felt the rhythm through Daniel's chest. She rested her head on his shoulder. Vanilla, mint, and lavender blended into a scent that felt like home. At the end of the day, Daniel lifted Lily and spun her around, laughing like a boy. "Sweetheart," he murmured, lips clear enough for Sophia to read, "because of you, I can hear things I couldn't before." Lily nodded, seriously signing, "Dad, good, now." Then she burst into giggles and ran off to hide the last slice of cake for Noah. As the lights dimmed, they stayed a moment longer in the sweet quiet. On the brick wall, Lily's old poster still hung, "Where happiness smells like sugar." Beneath it, Daniel had added in fine pen, "And like the person you love." 2 years brought many changes. Paint no longer clung easily to the shop's new windows. The chalkboard filled with more handprints, and people who once shook their heads now moved their hands in rhythm with the signs. North Star's Access Pack had become a default feature in many classrooms. Ari Jenkins showed off a chart. ASL overlay usage was climbing month by month. The facial expression layer, once dismissed as decoration, was now a standout feature drawing constant praise from deaf teachers. Maya and a team of interpreters were paid proper professional rates by a tech company, something rare just a few years earlier. Jason joked, "We're selling value through our product, this time literally." At Sweet Roots, the small bell over the door knew the signatures of its regulars. 2 quick taps meant Noah, 1 long tap meant little Emma, who loved chocolate cake. The sign of the day board was no longer a promotion, but a ritual. Everyone stopped to learn 2 hand movements before ordering. Sophia, now the owner of 2 shops, the second in Capitol Hill, still wore her cream apron. She managed plenty, but still needed dough every day, so her hands wouldn't forget. On the shelf sat a tin box for the ASL Scholarship Fund for Children in Need. It grew heavier with each season. This afternoon was Lily's 10th birthday. The backyard was strung with golden lights like low-hanging stars. Paper bunting showed both letters and signs. Lily's friends, hearing and deaf, darted between cupcake tables. At the head of the yard, a small wooden stage. Lily stepped up, microphone in hand, eyes bright. She greeted first in English, then repeated it in ASL, her movements smooth as breathing. There was no stiffness anymore. Spoken language and sign language flowed together like 2 braided ribbons. Maya stood at the corner of the yard, smiling. Today, Lily didn't need an interpreter. She was her own. Margaret sat in the back row, hands wrapped around a cup of mint tea. She no longer hid her feelings behind tight lines. She had long since returned to class, not finance class, but basic ASL at the community center. Her signing was clumsy but patient. When Lily looked her way and signed love, she responded much more precisely than last year. "She's grown so fast," she murmured to Daniel, pride woven into her voice. Sophia sat beside her, one hand resting on her 6-month belly. The baby kicked gently, like knocking on a door. Daniel placed his hand there and smiled. "Whenever the baby hears Lily laugh, it kicks," Sophia said slowly, her lips curving. "Maybe it's learning the rhythm," Daniel teased. "The rhythm of bread rising." They both laughed. In the garden's corner, the blackboard read, "Today, apologize if you don't understand each other the first time." Below were 3 simple signs teaching how to ask someone to repeat in ASL. No one was treated as a bother for asking again. Night fell, and the storytelling began, by hand. Noah stood with Lily, walking through Sweetroot's journey, from flower-dusted aprons to silent hour, from a vandalized wall to bridge day, from a press conference with an interpreter to today, when cake and signing had become part of the city's rhythm. After each bit of the story, Lily spoke briefly, then signed it in full. Hearing guests understood. Deaf guests understood. No one stood on the outside. Then came the gift. Daniel carried a small box to the stage and opened it. A set of 52 laminated cards of signs, drawn by Renee, reviewed by Maya. Each one a word their family had once needed. Stay, slow down, sad, brave, proud, home. "You've taught us so much," Daniel said, speaking slowly and signing alongside. "Today, we give you the words that once held you, so you'll remember, whenever you feel lost, just put your hand on your heart." Lily didn't cry for drama's sake. She smiled, hugged her dad, then turned and hugged Sophia, hugging the baby too. "I'll teach the baby early," she said, each word round and clear, "so they can speak with their hands and their heart." In the audience, a middle-aged man stood and asked to write on the blackboard. He was a father of a deaf child from another district. "Thank you for letting us be seen," he wrote, then signed awkwardly but understandably, "Thank you." Ari Jenkins leaned to Jason. "That's a metric you can't put in a report, but it's what makes every chart mean something." Jason nodded, smiling. When the birthday cake, shaped like a vanilla house, was brought out, Lily took a deep breath and blew out the candles. The flames vanished, but the golden light stayed warm. The singing began. Some sang, some signed the lyrics. Sophia placed her hand on her belly, feeling the rhythm through her skin. Daniel wrapped an arm around her, his eyes resting on Margaret, who was signing along slowly. Suddenly, she turned to Sophia and signed something she'd never thought she'd say with her hands, proud of you. Sophia froze for a second, hand to heart, then replied simply, "Thank you, Mom." After the party, the yard emptied. The lights hung low like fallen stars. Daniel, Sophia, and Lily stayed behind. Lavender rustled in the breeze. The smell of butter and sugar clung to their hair. Daniel set out 3 chairs. "On the first day at the café," he said softly, like telling a secret, "I was afraid to touch anything for fear of breaking the moment. Today, I'm only afraid I don't have enough hands to hold everything beautiful we have." "You don't need many hands," Sophia smiled, signing only the right hands. Lily jumped in and signed her longtime favorite, I-L-Y. All 3 did it together, laughing aloud. On the brick wall, the old poster still hung, "Where happiness smells like sugar." That afternoon, Margaret had quietly added a small note beneath, "And has room for everyone." Her handwriting was shaky but firm. Before going inside, Daniel paused, looking at his two girls, one grown, one still kicking inside. He whispered, lips clear for Sophia to read, voice loud enough for Lily to hear, "Not every story needs words. Some stories, like ours, only need people." Lily nodded, signing evenly. True. Sophia pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the steady rhythm. One beat for her, one for the baby, one for the man who had learned how to listen. The night closed with laughter still caught in the fence, the scent of vanilla still lingering, and three hands intertwined as one. In Seattle, sometimes the rain still falls. But in that small backyard strung with golden lights, there is a language with no words, enough for a lifetime. And that is the journey from the heavy silences of the past to a home filled with laughter and the language of the heart. The story of Daniel, Sophia, and Lily is not just about love, but about how people choose to stay, to face prejudice and fear together, and to build a chosen family. If you were Daniel, would you sacrifice a major career opportunity to protect the person who helped your child find their voice again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share with friends, and subscribe so you don't miss more inspiring stories.